Okay, so as John said, this is becoming a social media master, the basics. So we're just going to cover the very basic skills and knowledge you need to know about getting started with social media. So as he said, my name is Michelle Boyer. I'm the Marketing Communications Specialist for the St. Vincent de Paul National Council here in St. Louis, Missouri. I actually just celebrated my 7-year anniversary there last week. It's hard to believe that I've been there 7 years, but also it feels like time has really flown. I can't believe it's been that long. And I really enjoyed my time there. So just a few things, and you can just type your answers in the comments, just kind of like an icebreaker. I wanted to know what social media you utilize the most for your own personal use. So not business-wise, just what do you use the most when it comes to your own personal time in utilizing Facebook? So Facebook. Oh, when is the advanced class? Frank, I haven't scheduled it yet, but I'll let you know. So I'm seeing a lot of Facebook, Twitter, some of the big, I call those 2 of the big 3, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but those are pretty common for people to use. So next, I want to know what social media outlet you use the most for your professional purposes. What kind of social media are you using for your job, for your counselor conference, if any? LinkedIn, that's a really good one to use for professional use. A little Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. So yeah, still sticking with some of the pretty major ones, the ones you hear about a lot. Does your council or conference have a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or other social media account? So any social media account, do you have one that you utilize for your council and conference? No, okay, Frank, well, this is the place for you. Some no's, some yeses, so we've got a pretty good mixed group here. So to start, a little review about what exactly is social media. So social media is the online world of websites and apps that let users connect to each other, other businesses, organizations, businesses, things like that, by sharing ideas, feelings, pictures, events, and other things to create and maintain relationships. That can be personal relationships, professional relationships. It's a place where you can share news, events, and fun or inspirational things with people who you would like to engage with your organization or yourself, depending on what purposes you're using social media for. More and more people access social media and the social media networks on their phones or tablets than computers because they like those handheld things, but plenty of people are still using them on their desktop and laptop computers. But definitely use on mobile devices is growing. There is honestly probably an innumerable amount of social media apps out there, and it can be kind of overwhelming. The ones we've got pictured here are not even breaking the ice on that. We've got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Skype, Snapchat, LinkedIn, and those are just a few of them. So today I'm going to focus on what I call the big 3.
Michelle, did you freeze up? I think,
Frozen for me. I can't, she's just frozen.
yeah. Let me, I think we just lost Michelle. She just got bounced off. So I am the host now. Okay, well, We'll wait for Michelle to get back in. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and load that presentation. You know, when they asked me to be tech support, they told me nothing like this would ever happen. So let me.
I'm back. Can you
You're
hear me
back.
now?
Yeah, okay.
I don't know what happened. Of course, my
Apparently-
internet's totally fine all day long.
Okay, I'll get this, yeah, get back to you then. Michelle, you got it?
I think I do, yes. Let me just make sure. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. Sorry about that. Can you guys see that?
Yes, we can see your screen, Michelle.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm not sure where I cut off last time, but like I was saying that social media gained almost 500 million followers or users in 2020, and today 4.2 billion people worldwide use social media of some kind. That is about half of the total world population. 90% of people with internet access use social media. In North America and Western and Northern Europe are the two highest social media saturation rates in the world. North America is just behind Western and Northern Europe. As more Americans have adopted social media and the social media user base has grown more representative of the population, young adults are definitely among some of the earliest social media adopters, and they continue to use these sites at high levels. But older adults are definitely increasing as each year goes on in the number that use social media. Worldwide, the average user spends about 2.25 hours on social media each day. And the average user has accounts on 8.4 different social media platforms. So just think about how many you have. So let's focus a little bit on Facebook. Facebook has 2.74 billion monthly active users, and 68% of American adults use Facebook. On Facebook, the number of users age 65 and up has doubled since 2012. Almost half of US seniors now use Facebook. 44% of the US women use Facebook compared to 56% of men. So more men are on Facebook than women. And the average US user spends about a half hour per day on Facebook. Twitter has 353 million users, and 22% of American adults use Twitter. Less than a third of Twitter users are women, which I found very interesting. And the average US user, again, spends about a half hour on Twitter each day. And Instagram has 1.2 billion monthly users, and roughly 60% of Instagram users use it daily. 41% of Americans use Instagram, and 50.8% of them are women. So slightly more women than men are using Instagram. 63% of Instagram users are between the ages of 18 and 34 years old. The average US user spends, again, about a half hour per day on Instagram. So why should you use social media? What is the benefit of it? Especially when it comes to your St. Vincent de Paul Counselor Conference. It's really a great way to share your conference or council news faster and easier. And here's the most important part, for free. You increase awareness about not only the society as a whole, but about the work of your council or conference, especially by donors and the people that you're helping, your neighbors in need. Marketing through social media is free or very inexpensive. Your council or conference will be able to be found easier when people search for them on things like Google. Because of search engine optimization, your social media account will likely come up and people will see a link to that when they type in the name of your conference or council on Google. It'll also help others spread the word about your conference or council, because people within your network will be able to share what you share. And so you're really just expanding your reach. It's a great way to complement and reinforce the work that your council does in your parish. And it's a great way to kind of find other organizations that do work in the same sector that you do. So it's a great way to form partnerships or collaborations or just friendships with people kind of with the same mission as you, and organizations that share the same goals. So a lot of people have often asked me, what social media accounts should you be using? At the National Council, we currently focus on 3 of them. And we came to the determination of using those 3 by looking at our audience and where our audience was, what social media sites our audience was on. We currently use Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And Facebook is definitely our #1 social media account, followed by Twitter and then LinkedIn. We are currently considering beginning Instagram, but I will kind of get into why we've waited so long to jump on the Instagram train. I'll get into that as we go on. In my opinion, and at the national office, kind of our strategy for social media has been that we didn't want to bite off more than we could chew when it came to starting our social media. We wanted to start small. We wanted to start on a site that we knew we could be successful, and we wanted to build from there. So we started with those 3, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And we have really, over the past, well, since I've been there, so 7 years, we have really focused on growing our presence on all 3 of those sites. We determined which outlets our prime audience was using, and we decided that we didn't want to overwhelm ourselves. We wanted to do a few things really great and not a bunch of things poorly. That's not how I wanted to say it. It was more eloquent in my head. But anyways, that's why we decided to focus on those 3. And I would say that we've been fairly successful in doing that. We've tracked our progress over the years, and we've grown exponentially on all those sites since I started back in 2014.
Michelle, I've got a couple questions out
Okay.
there I'll take at this point. One of them was a specific question about Facebook. So that person, you want to ask that question? Unmute yourself.
Yeah, I did. I just have a question about when it doesn't have to be right now, but at some point, if you could answer it. When I went to try to set up a Facebook account for our conference, it asks you like first name, last name, and that kind of thing. And I wound up instead like making like a business page off of my own page. And I don't think that's how it really should be necessarily, but I didn't know how to do it any other way. So, I mean, you don't need to answer it now, but if you could hit on that sometime.
I will. I actually do hit on that a little bit later in the presentation, but I agree with you. It is really confusing when you're trying to set up a business page because it wants to be connected to a personal Facebook page. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then also, if you guys have any questions and I'm not able to really clarify it here for you, I am happy to do a Zoom or anything personally, and we can kind of share a screen and go through it, if that would help also. So we can always talk a little bit after or offline about something like that. But I will touch on your question as the presentation goes on.
And Michelle, I had another question a couple of people asked, and it probably doesn't really fall under social media, but I'll let you address it. They were asking about a website. And I think, so you want to just address that briefly?
Yeah, so I honestly have no knowledge about how to necessarily set up a website. I would direct you to our IT department, Wendy Jones or Megan Scanlon. I know I have been a part of building the new national website, but it's already built and then I'm helping add things in. So I can't necessarily speak to how to necessarily start a website. So I would direct you to our IT department because they will definitely be able to help you.
Michelle, quick question on that though.
Yeah.
And we were thinking about starting a website because we were thinking about having our form for our neighbors in need to fill out on the website. Is there a place on the social media, say Facebook, that we could add that to instead of?
So you could add it as a PDF. You would need, that's a tricky question. Generally, you don't want to upload like Word documents to Facebook just because of like brevity purposes. You're not trying to get things that are super long. But you could redirect them if you were able to just kind of put that form on. Well, I'm assuming you don't already have a website, right? Okay, so there are places where you can
The
create,
website, I don't know.
there are places where you can create fairly inexpensive websites. And then I mean, you just need the bare bones type of website. You just need somewhere that you can upload this document and then get a URL for it. Then you can input the URL into a Facebook post, and then people can click it and will be directed to that page, to that form. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yes, thank you. Yes.
Okay, yeah, and I know like WordPress is a really good website builder to use, but I think that does cost a little bit. I also know there's a website called Wix that you can utilize to build a website. So there are quite a few good website building tools that you can use that are fairly inexpensive, and I think would get the job done and give you a place where you could kind of host your form. Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
So some startup tips when it comes to building your social media presence. Something that's really important is you want to get your conference and council members on board with it. You want them to understand the benefits of having a social media account. You want them to understand what kind of things should be on those pages. You want to kind of be in agreement about what types of things you're posting on there and what things not to post on there. You want to pick one person to manage the social media page and then have a backup. It's one of those things where you don't want too many cooks in the kitchen. You want to know what's being posted and when. You don't want too many people posting too many different things. That's when you get things posted that aren't supposed to be posted or don't follow your branding guidelines or your social media guidelines. You just want to, keep it close, keep the bubble close to who's posting on your social media site. So for our social media site at National, it's myself. And then I would say the backup is my boss, Jill Porter, who is the communications and marketing director. You want to write a policy about how to deal with problematic posts or comments or messages on your social media pages. You want to have standards that if they're not met, that is when you remove a post or delete a comment or hide a comment. We do have a social media guidelines document from the National Council, and it's at that link below, at that link right there, and I believe you will be receiving this PowerPoint. So then you'll be able to click that and go to that document, and you can utilize that. You can personalize it to your council or conference, but it gives you some great information about guidelines that you should have in place when starting to utilize social media. And when it comes to messages or notifications, just decide who responds to those. At the national office, Jill and I take turns. So it's every other week we switch about who's responding to messages or comments, because they do come in and they can be a lot. It can be a lot to monitor those every day. So we kind of switch off and on. And this is kind of where your question is answered. You want to establish a second email address or a separate email address from your personal one, so that when you're logging in, you're not accidentally logging into your personal one or accidentally logging into the work one and posting something on one of them that you didn't want to post it there. So for instance, if your council or conference has an email address, say it's like info@svdpusa.org. You could utilize that as the contact email address for your Facebook page, and then kind of just put in not dummy information, but kind of fill in the blanks as vaguely as possible when it comes to like name and things like that, so that it's just associated with your council or conference. It's not connected to your personal one. And again, I understand that that's probably really confusing. That's one of those things where it's like, it's been a while since I've set up a new Facebook page, but it's one of those things where it's like you really don't remember what you need to fill out until it's in front of you. So that's something that I would be really happy to do kind of a one-on-one and kind of walk you through it and see what we could figure out. So this is especially important for conferences that are looking to form their own social media presence. You do want to keep in contact and kind of collaborate with your council, your district council, your diocesan or archdiocesan council. You want your social media presence to kind of complement theirs and vice versa. You want to be spreading the same message. You want to be able to share their stuff back and forth so that they'll share yours, and you're kind of promoting each other's stuff. You're widening your audience by each sharing each other's, and it's getting out to more people. You can even talk about ways to like co-promote the same events at the same time, things like that. Just really collaborate with your upper councils and things, because you guys are a team after all. So planning is crucial when it comes to a successful social media strategy, and content is really key. Content is the story that you want to share. I create a social media calendar every year, and it has every month and the days that I have specific things that I know I want to post on our social media accounts. And then every week, so every Friday, I create the posts for the following week and I schedule them. So then everything that's already planned out, I have done, it's ready to go. And then I'm able to fill in with shares from other councils or conferences, shares from disaster services, just I can fill in the blanks where need be, but I know what's being posted when, and it just helps things run a lot smoother. You want to make sure that you're delivering content regularly. On Facebook, we generally post at least twice a day, sometimes more, depending on what's going on. The same with Twitter, LinkedIn, because that is a little bit more professional, as opposed to it's a little bit more formal, as opposed to Facebook and Twitter. So we don't post on LinkedIn necessarily every day, but we're definitely posting on there multiple times a week. One thing that I like to think about it is I treat our Facebook like it's the National Council's newspaper. So a lot of the stuff that goes in the e-Gazette will go on our Facebook page. It's just like a real-time newspaper. So this is something that I just started doing within the last year or so, and I have found it incredibly helpful. I would call it a game changer. There are numerous free and inexpensive programs that you can use for social media planning and scheduling. The site that we use at the national office is Hootsuite. It does cost, but I've definitely found it to be worth the cost. There are other apps. If you have a Google account, your Google Calendar you can use for free. So it's just something, do a little research on which one works best for you. But that's what we use every week when I am scheduling the social media for the following week. I put it on there, set the time that I want it to go, and it's done. So it makes everything so much easier, especially for the weekends, so you don't have to make sure that someone is at the computer available to post at a certain time. You also can share your calendar with other employees and Vincentians so everyone knows what's going on. Everyone also remembers that they need to go and share that post on that day at that time so that it gets to a wider audience. Some tips when scheduling content. Avoid scheduling anything to go, or not even scheduling, avoid posting anything on weekend evenings. Not a lot of people are in front of their computer on Saturday nights. So that's not the time that you want to post about your upcoming fundraiser. It's just not going to get in front of as many eyes as you want it to. Consider when your audience is most likely to be looking at their social media. Work days tend to yield the highest levels of engagement. Work days around lunchtime. People are on break. They're taking a few minutes to relax and look at their Facebook, look at their Twitter, read their email. That doesn't have to do with work. So remember, midday breaks, like I said, around lunch is a really good time. And also just remember to consider major holidays or other major events that may affect when people could be in front of their computers or be on their phones looking at social media.
Michelle, you were
Yes.
talking about those calendars. Do they automatically post stuff to Facebook for you once you schedule it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we, the one that we have, we're able to connect up to 9 social media accounts. So we have our 3, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and then we actually share it with disaster services. So we have their Facebook and their Twitter on there as well. So I don't post to DSC's pages. They, one of their people has a login to it, and she'll post to theirs, but we often cross post each other's stuff. But yes, so if you've got, say you have Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, if you've got all of those, you could schedule one post to go to all 3 or all of your social media accounts at one time. The only thing you need to remember is that Twitter has a character limit. So sometimes I can post to Facebook and LinkedIn with the same post, and then I'll have to create a separate post that's a little bit shorter to go to Twitter. But yeah, once I schedule it and set the time for them to go, they'll go, and it's great. I don't have to think about it. I was on vacation last week. I scheduled everything social media wise for while I was gone. I did it the Friday before I left, and social media went off without a hitch while I was gone. And I didn't need anyone at work to kind of pick up the slack because it was already taken care of. So these are just a couple examples of a good and maybe a not so effective Facebook post. I'm guessing that most of you agree that the one that really catches your eye and draws you in is the one with the colorful pictures. You're right. When it comes to posting on Facebook, you want to use pictures. You want something that is going to draw people in. The pictures or videos are what's going to catch people's eye. And then once they're drawn in, then they're going to read what's on your post. So you want to always use photos or videos or graphics of some kind when it comes to posting. It's so easy to do from your phone too. You can take a picture, post it, add a caption, you're good to go. Same with videos. You always want to include a link back to your website, drive traffic to your website because that's where the most information is. But also try to keep it short and sweet. No one's going to read 3 paragraphs of text. And I know in the past, we've actually been guilty of that at National. We've gotten a lot better about it. But, you know, no one's going to read a whole book on there. They're on there. They just want to read for a second and continue swiping. And if you're tagging anyone in any of your photos, you want to make sure that you have their permission to put their liking on the internet before you do that. And be especially careful with this when it comes to children. We have photo releases at the national office. And if you ever need a copy of that or anything, feel free to email me and I can go ahead and send you those if you ever need to use them. So some of the things that you can communicate on social media with, some of the things that you can post about. Post about upcoming events. If you've got a major fundraiser coming up for your council or conference, post about it constantly for weeks before the event comes up, when registration opens, all that fun stuff. Post about feast days. So we post about obviously the founders' feast days and their canonization dates. We've also started posting so that we can all learn a little bit more about Vincentian saints, the other Vincentian saints. Highlight exceptional Vincentians, people who have really been out there doing the hard work to help their neighbors in need. Maybe do a mini profile on them. So people can learn who's out there doing the work, especially for donors. If people have donated to St. Vincent de Paul in the past, it'll be really nice for them to kind of put a face to the name. You just want to make your digital presence known. You can share updates with other partner organizations or other organizations in the area that are working with the same populations that you are, in hopes that they would also share your stuff. We often share content from FamVin or Busted Halo Vinformation, and they often share things from us. This is something that I always say is make your friends be a friend. So when I started my job and I started handling all of the social media, I made my entire family click like and follow St. Vincent de Paul on all their social medias, all my friends. It's a little shameless, but if I'm with them and we're talking about Facebook or something, I'll say, hey, you should like my work. And something that has definitely is definitely still something that people like to do, is checking in. Usually if you post an update and there's a place where you can say where you're at. So say you're at a St. Vincent de Paul event, say you're at the Friends of the Poor Walk. You can check in and say that you are at the Friends of the Poor Walk, and people will be able to see where you're at and see that you're taking part in a St. Vincent de Paul event. So one thing that you want to really keep mindful of is you want to measure your social media success. So I mentioned before that we have monitored our growth at the National Council of our social media over the years. And we do that using, they're called analytics, and they're easily accessible on all your social media accounts. And we monitor them every month to see what type of growth we've had, see what our engagement has been like. We just keep an eye on it, and then it allows you to kind of determine where you need to adjust your plan to continue growing on your social media sites. So this goes a little bit more into kind of how to keep your personal accounts separate from your St. Vincent de Paul account. So there's something called Facebook Page Manager. So this is kind of for once you've actually got the page set up. It's a free app that you can install on your phone through Google Play Store if you have an Android, or the App Store on Apple. And it allows you to manage Facebook accounts that are business pages. So not your personal account, this is your St. Vincent de Paul account. You will log in with your SVDP account credentials and click the icon to open your SVDP page. And then you are ready to post on just your SVDP page. You don't have to worry about going through your personal page. You're focused on SVDP. So some of the things, sometimes people often ask how to best grow your Facebook audience. Some of the best ways to do this are to like and follow other businesses or organizations that you have relationships with and you want to be associated with, so that then in turn their audience will hopefully come and like you because they're seeing your content on their page. If you see someone who has liked your post on social media, but you noticed that they haven't liked your page, you can send them a personal message inviting them to like your page. You know, just keep an eye on everybody else's posts and comments and things, continue sharing. If you're friendly on social media, hopefully other people will be friendly back. So these are just a few what if questions. So what if someone makes an inappropriate comment on one of your Facebook posts? This happens a lot, not a lot, but it happens. And the best thing that you can do is really just use your best judgment. Is it something that could be offensive to other followers or other people who are reading this information? If so, then I would say it's definitely appropriate to either delete or hide that comment so that it's not seen publicly. You know, it's something that is kind of taken at a case-by-case basis, at least when we handle it at the National Council. You know, we don't have like a 3 strikes and you're out policy where we ban you from our page after you've said 3 mean things. It's really dependent on what you're saying. Usually we will try to communicate with that person to see if there's something underlying that we can help with. And sometimes if it's just downright terrible, we will ban them. But again, you can't, it's not a one-size-fits-all answer to that. So it's something that you really have to use your best judgment with, but you really want to make sure that it's not something that A, is going to affect the way others are viewing you, and B, is not going to offend people. Say that you make a mistake on a post and accidentally publish it. That's fine. On Facebook, there's a button that you can click that you can edit a post, so you can fix a typo. Twitter, you can't edit, you'll have to delete it and then just repost it. Instagram, you can also edit a caption. Same with LinkedIn. Sometimes though, it's easier if a picture, it's the wrong picture or something like that, just delete it and repost it. No big deal. If no one seems to be interacting with or engaging with your posts, then take a step back, look at your social media plan and adjust. Look at what times you're posting. Maybe you need to be posting at a different time. Are you posting enough graphics or videos? Are you posting things that are really drawing people in and catching their eye? A lot of times it's something small that you can make an adjustment and you'll start to see some results. So when it comes to using Twitter, this again, you don't want to use a personal email address. You want to use an email address that is related to your conference or council, your location. That way, it's just really important that it's not connected to one individual person, just in case that person were to leave or something were to happen, you don't have access to that page. So you want to create, like I said with Facebook, a specific email address that relates to your council or conference that doesn't go with you if you were to leave or go somewhere. It stays with the society. Tweets, I would say you definitely want to tweet frequently. Twitter is definitely a more real-time update sort of platform. So your tweets don't need to be as formal as something you would post on Facebook or LinkedIn. They're really easy to just shoot a tweet out there, add a picture, and you're good to go. But I would say the more you post on Twitter, the better. You can, again, include links that will drive traffic back to your website, your newsletter, things like that. Your content is going to be a lot like what you're posting on Facebook. They'll just be shorter and probably be more of them. And just like we were saying, to share things that you're seeing from other councils and conferences, you want to retweet things that other councils and conferences, other organizations are tweeting on Twitter, because again, it will then be seen by their entire audience. So here are just a couple examples of tweets. And again, the one that probably catches your eye is the one that you see there's a video to watch. The one that you see up above, first of all the words aren't showing up because they went past the character limit. And so you don't get the full message, and there's nothing really interesting to look at. It's just a lot of words. Not that the information isn't important, but people may not read that because there's nothing catching their eye. It's easy to just scroll past that. So Instagram. When it comes to Instagram, the most important thing that you need is images. That is probably the reason that the National Council hasn't really delved too far into Instagram, is because we're not the ones on the ground doing the work helping our friends in need. So we don't really have a photo database of pictures that would be worth sharing. So that is something that's really important that you need for Instagram, because Instagram is picture driven. It's basically photos with a caption. So does your conference take many photos? If not, then maybe Instagram isn't right for you either. But if they do take a lot of photos, if you guys have a lot of fundraising events, if you're having your Friends of the Poor walk, say that you have a gala every year, or a major fundraiser or a car wash, something like that, if you have these opportunities to take these photos, then I would definitely say give Instagram a try. And like all the other social media accounts, use a non-personal email address and follow other SVDPs, other organizations, so that ideally they would follow you back. So these are just a couple of Instagram photos. The one of the Coliseum is gorgeous and really catches your eye. It's really artistically appealing. The other one is a photo that I took a long time ago that is clearly not good at all. It was at the baseball game and my friend had eaten a lot of peanuts. You don't even know what you're looking at until you read the caption. So that was not my best work on Instagram. And one fun and really great aspect of Instagram is that you can click so that anytime you update on Instagram, it will share to your other social media accounts. So anytime you post on Instagram, you can make it share to your Facebook, your Twitter. I think that I think the options have actually expanded from here, but you could share your Facebook, your Twitter, any social media account. That way you don't have to post in 2 different places. You can post all at once from Instagram. So in the marketing toolbox on the national website, that is a good place to find our social media guidelines or other tools that could be helpful when it comes to working with social media. So now it's time for anybody, if you have any questions. I know I talked kind of fast and there's a lot of information, so I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Can you put back the last two so I can write down those?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
They just went flying by.
Sorry. Oh, wait, hold on. There we go. These two?
Yes.
Okay. And I think you're going to receive this PowerPoint, so you would be able to just click the links.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Is that right, John?
Yes, these PowerPoints will be distributed. These
Yeah, so
presentation
then
will be
you'll-
recorded too.
Okay, thanks. Are we going to receive just the ones we attend or all of them? Because I had a real quandary whether to attend this one or the one about recruitment, since I help with recruitment.
If this,
Sorry, my phone's ringing. I have to
You're
go
okay.
and mute.
if this follows a typical pattern, all the ones are available, made available for that very reason. So
Thank you.
that would be my assumption.
Okay, so Denise, I see you posted that you think that a good Facebook page is an investment in time, and I definitely agree with that. A good Facebook page is an investment in the future of your organization, because so many people are on social media now. It's kind of an extension of your website, of any types of hard copy papers that you're putting out with information. So I think it really is truly an investment. And while it can be a free, there are, like I said, really inexpensive ways you can kind of boost a post to increase its audience for like $5 or $10. So say you have an event coming up, you could boost the posts talking about those events or asking for registration. You can boost that for $5 or $10 and it can reach about double the audience that it normally would. So yes, I agree. It is definitely investment. When a comment is hidden, it only hides it from you, not from everyone looking at the post. I think that depends on your settings. Because I have found when we hide the post, it actually hides from everyone, but we can still see it. So that may be dependent on your settings.
Does Twitter have a thing like guide you through what you're doing if you decide to create an account?
It's a lot with any of the social media sites that as you set it up, it kind of takes you through step by step. But I would be happy to kind of walk with you through it if that would be helpful to you. If you wanted to set up a time where we could kind of chat and maybe do a Zoom between us and I could just walk through it with you. That way I can answer any questions real time that you may have.
Thank you.
Michelle, could I just get your contact information?
Yeah, my email, I'll just go to that slide. Hold on one second.
I didn't see it, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. And
Because I will definitely take advantage of help with that.
absolutely. That's what National is here for. We're here to help you guys.
Thank you.
You guys are the ones doing the hard work and really out there helping our friends in need. So we just want to make sure you guys are as successful as possible.
And also, Michelle mentioned Wendy on the national website under contacts. There are all these departments and people are listed on the national website, their contact information. If you ever want to reach out to any of them, they are always, I found them always available and ready to assist in any way possible.
I have to be honest. I have a Facebook page, a personal Facebook page, but I also set one up for the district council. I'm the district council president, but I became so disillusioned with Facebook, particularly during the last election cycle. It became so political, and it was just I was getting so many posts from that I didn't want on my personal that I just kind of forgot about the district site. It was terrible. So probably that's my fault. I probably shouldn't have done that, but I just got tired of it.
And you know what? You are not alone. I know my own little brother, who is probably the prime age range to be utilizing all of the social medias. He has recently stepped away from social media as well. And John and I actually talked about that, I think, before this. It can be very draining, especially like you said, in times of high stress, like an election year or a pandemic. So, I don't blame you at all for wanting to take a step back from it. I wish I could say that there is a solution to that. But the powers that be, when it comes to how the messages that you're getting, like ads and things like that, unfortunately, I don't know that there's any way to control that. One thing that I would suggest, and I have done personally, is taking a look at your friend list, taking a look at the people that you're following and just kind of weeding them out. If there are people that you notice that are perpetually posting things that that after you read it, you feel very drained and you feel like it was kind of toxic, unfollow them, unfriend them. I have unfriended a couple different family members just because that's not what I'm wanting. That's not what I'm coming to social media for. I'm not coming to social media to feel drained and to be upset. I'm coming because I want to see people's good news and I want to read people's jokes or see people's funny videos. So just do what is best for you so that social media works for you.
One thing I found I have to be careful of is there's, different members of our own conference who have friended me. And then you go on and you find out their viewpoints on political issues are very different than yours. And if there's posting stuff that is just going to upset me, I don't unfriend them, but I just unfollow them.
Exactly.
Because I had a conversation with one of our people about that. She's like, I can tell that you and I are on different wavelengths, politically. And so I just, in order to maintain a decent friendship at St. Vincent's, I don't follow her because we're just so disagreeing on other things.
You are absolutely right. And like you said, everyone is allowed to have their own opinion. And you don't need to unfriend them. You can just unfollow them and then you won't see their updates on your timeline. You won't see their stuff kind of popping up on your page. It's kind of like you're muting them. Did anybody else have any more questions?
I will add one thought to what was just discussed. As Michelle mentioned, my wife and I made a decision to get off Facebook. I don't know, about 6 months ago. Just wasn't worth it. And we have other means of communicating with our family and stuff. We use text chains and Instagram and so forth. And so we got off Facebook. But one of the things that disturbs me, and I think I may apply to what was said, as a diocesan council president, I've attended some conference meetings. And I've actually had a couple of occasions where I've had to squelch political discussions because there's no place for, political activism, I think, within a conference meeting. It's about Christ. It's about the poor. It's about growing in holiness. And the secular world really has to be kept separate, I think, from this society, unless you're involved with Voice of the Poor or something. So, yeah, I found it unfortunate that I had to do that on a couple of occasions.
Yeah, and that's bringing it back to when you're forming a social media presence for your St. Vincent de Paul Council or conference. that's part of, that can be part of your overall social media guidelines that you build for your counselor conference, is you can state, we do not comment on political things. We are an overwhelming, our main focus is spirituality and helping our neighbors in need, and we are not going to comment on political situations. That's up to you. You form whatever guidelines you feel are appropriate for your counselor conference, whatever you're comfortable with. But that's definitely something that you want to discuss with maybe your council leadership or things like that, just to come to the best determination about what the best guidelines for your counselor conference are.
I agree with those comments, because I think that right now what the world needs is unity, and not what we're talking about here, because I think the most important message Christ had for us is to love one another. And I think that all these media tools can be used for that. And just from our experience in Baton Rouge, we've had good experience with the use of Facebook and the other social mediums, but media efforts, but you do have to monitor it, and you do have to have someone assigned to it.
Yes.
If the comments, you've done a great job, Michelle, giving us a great presentation, but for councils that have special works, or even councils that just have conferences, if somebody gets on your Facebook page, is unhappy with the services, suffer from mental illness, or whatever the case may be, you want to be able to, take quick action, so that people understand that maybe things that are posted are not necessarily true. So,
Right.
and
Absolutely.
hiding, because we've had that a few times, and I know a lot of my colleagues as executives around the country have had that as well. And you have to just move quickly. And
Right.
Yeah.
And while I say that, sometimes it's necessary to hide that comment or something like that, we don't, if it, you have to read into every situation. Sometimes it's best to kind of take the conversation with that person offline. Maybe send them a direct message, say, is there anything we can do to assist you? Can we direct you to the St. Vincent de Paul in your area to get you some help? And that's when it just comes into, you just got to use your best judgment.
It's also a way we see that we get more messaging and requests for assistance through Facebook, the website, etc., that maybe 10 or 15 years ago we did not do. And so sometimes our guests will, instead of picking up the telephone, they will message us on Facebook because they need assistance, our neighbors that we're serving. So always important to do. Again, Michelle, great job on this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions anybody has for Michelle? Or comments they'd like to make?
Well, I just want to thank you. I really appreciate your
Oh,
presentation.
thank you. And I'm happy to help however I can. Feel free to reach out to me.
Well done, Michelle. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you very much.